Welcome to Medill Sports Talk, where we break down the news this week for the sports you love. Welcome to the first live edition of Medill Sports Talk. I'm Darren Zaslow, and we've got a stacked show today with the MLB, the Stanley Cup Finals, and the NBA Finals. Joining me for our first segment are Daniel Comer and Jordan Klein. Boys, thanks so much for taking the time. Let's get into it, first starting with the Cubs' Anthony Rizzo. And he's been the center of attention after a controversial slide against the Pittsburgh Pirates Monday. When running home to beat a force out, Rizzo slid into Pirates catcher Elias Diaz, which resulted in Diaz falling to the ground and making an errant throw to first base. Now, according to MLB Rule 6.01, a bona fide slide occurs when the runner begins his slide before reaching the base, is able and attempts to reach the base with his hand or foot, is able and attempts to remain on the base after completion of the slide, and slides within reach of the base without changing his pathway for the purpose of initiating contact with a fielder. Jordan, let's go to you. Was Rizzo's slide illegal?
I do think that it was illegal. I don't think it was dirty. And before I go any further, I've been waiting all season to say this. Darren, it's such a pleasure to be on your show. You do a great job. The reason why I think it was dirty but not illegal but not necessarily dirty is Rizzo is not the kind of guy that's going to go after somebody like this. I mean, this is somebody who, through his charity work, has given back to so many youth hospitals throughout our country. His work with the Parkland community after their school shooting earlier this year was incredibly admirable. He's the kind of guy who has his heart in the right place. He's one of the most important role models for the game of Major League Baseball right now, in which we don't have a lot of standout stars on the national stage. He's a guy who puts his heart on his sleeve. I don't think this is something that he would do intentionally, but based on the rules, was it illegal? Yeah, it was illegal.
Baseball instincts, you bring up a good point. Speaking of baseball instincts, Dan,
yes, sir.
You played baseball.
I did play baseball. I think, yes, technically this is a illegal slide, but it's not a dirty play. We were raised to break up the play. If it's a double play at second base, if it's a double play at home, you're trying to break up the play. Now, the reason this rule was put in place was because a couple years ago, Buster Posey was basically obliterated at home plate. And that rule was put in place because of this, but I really don't think that this shouldn't be a rule that's still in place, to be honest with you. Joe Madden went with talked with Joe Torre recently and said, I don't like this rule. No one likes this rule. I hope we revisit it, and I agree with him. There need to be some amendments because this is something we're taught at an early age. It's like in the NFL. You know, they're trying to rehash how people are learning how to tackle at the Pee Wee football level. Maybe that's what they should do in the MLB at the Little League level, but we haven't been taught that. That's how it's our baseball instincts to do that. It's not a dirty play. This isn't Ty Cobb sharpening his spikes. You know, this is a clean play from a clean player, but it's just baseball instincts, and I think it's something that really it's a detriment to the game to make this an illegal play.
And speaking of Anthony Rizzo, it has been an up and down season for the Chicago Cubs this year. The Cubs are currently in second place in the NL Central, trailing the Milwaukee Brewers by 3.5 games. Dan, will the Cubs make the playoffs?
The Cubs will make the playoffs. They have playoff experience. My concern with the Cubs is the pitching. Who is going to be their frontline guy? They lost Arrieta last year. They replaced him with Yu Darvish. Is Yu Darvish that guy? It doesn't look like it. He hasn't performed in the playoffs before. The other thing you got to look at the Cubs is how is that offense going to be moving forward? Kyle Schwarber, an inconsistent guy, streaky hitter. Javi Baez, an inconsistent guy, streaky hitter. They might put up a ton of runs on a guy and look at the end of the day, they have good stats, but are they going to hit it when it counts? You also have Jason Hayward, who has just been awful offensively since he's joined the Cubs. That's not looking like a great contract. I worry about the Cubs, but they do have one thing working in their favor in that interleague play. They're playing against the AL Central, which has been putrid. You're looking at the Tigers, the White Sox, and the Royals. Bad teams, and that gives them a leg up on the teams in the East that they'd be competing with in the wild card.
Yu Darvish was also recently put on the DL. Tyler Chatwood, Jordan, has also been a huge question mark in this pitching rotation. What do you think? Are the Cubs going to the playoffs?
I think they're going to the playoffs. You mentioned Chatwood. He's currently looking like Wild Thing Vaughn without his glasses on the mound right now, leading the majors, I believe, in walks. It seems like his whip right now is completely based on how many base on balls he gives up per inning. But That being said, Dan, you talked about whether or not they have those frontline guys in their pitching rotation. I think they do. John Lester is a silent assassin this year. He's got a 2.30 ERA, one of the best so far in his career. He's been incredibly strong for them in the front of their rotation. Kyle Hendricks looks very solid as well. And there are two guys who in the lineup I'm so excited to see hitting, and that's Albert Almora and Chris Bryant. Both of those guys, Chris Bryant is hitting in the 290s, Albert Almora in the low 300s, and boy is Almora electric in center field. You get him in the top of the lineup, he gets on base, you have Javi Baez behind him, the top of the lineup becomes really dangerous. Now, we talked about Anthony Rizzo before. He had a very slow start to the year. His batting average finally creeped back up into the 220s, but he's had a hit in every one of his last 5 games, including going 2 for 3 last night against Zazzy, your beloved Pittsburgh Pirates, and hitting a home run off of them. So do I see the Cubs making the playoffs? They're too good not to.
You bring up Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn, and for those who have watched the movie Major League, he played for the Cleveland Indians. Let's go to the American League.
What a
with
transition.
The Boston Red Sox, who currently have a 2-game lead on the New York Yankees. These teams have 2 of the most potent lineups in baseball, ranking in the top 2 in runs, home runs, and RBI. Jordan, who is going to win the AL East?
It's going to be the Boston Red Sox. I think the Red Sox are too dangerous and too experienced not to win the AL East. The biggest thing for me when we look at this division is Red Sox versus Yankees. Which team in the biggest rivalry in baseball is going to take the division? For me, the Red Sox have an advantage in a couple of areas. One is their starting pitching rotation. As a team, they have a lower ERA amongst their starting pitchers compared to the Yankees. After Severino, Tanaka's had a very rough start to his season. Sonny Gray has been pretty brutal over the past couple of starts. Look for him to try to turn things around. But the Red Sox, they have the more stable starting rotation. Couple that with the experience level of a guy like Mookie Betts, who has already experienced what it's like to have a down year. Now he's having the best year of his career, one of the best years in baseball. I mean, if he's not playing in the same league as a guy named Mike Trout, he is by far the MVP frontrunner, and he probably still is for a lot of people. For those reasons, the Boston Red Sox are such an exciting team to watch. They're my pick to take the AL East this year.
Someone playing alongside Mookie Betts in that Boston outfield, Andrew Benintendi, has been incredible these past couple weeks. Dan, what do you think? Who's winning this division?
Benintendi's on my fantasy team. He's a 20 home run, 20 steal guy. He's going to
brush the dirt off the shoulder.
Saying,
there you go.
No, I love the Red Sox. I also love the Yankees. I think they're neck and neck. Obviously, they're only, 2 games back right now. The Yankees are. You look at those starting rotations, I think that's going to really come into play in the playoffs. And even if the Yankees don't win the division, I think they have a better shot at going further in the playoffs because they have the pieces in their farm system to make a trade at the deadline. That's something that we're going to have to watch. The Yankees have the second overall, according to Keith Law and ESPN.com, farm system coming into the year. I believe the Red Sox have the 24th or 26th, something like that. If you have the pieces to deal at the deadline, maybe you can go out and get an established pitcher like Cole Hamels. Maybe you can go out and get a hitter. You never know who's going to become available. Maybe a Mike Moustakas, someone that's on a failing team right now. So the Yankees have the potential long-term to win, go further in the playoffs, but the Red Sox, I think Jordan's right, they do seem to have the edge right now as currently constructed.
Those young guys too, Gleyber Torres with a walk-off single last night coming over from the
Cubs.
On
my fantasy team.
There you go.
That's right.
This is good stuff. Here's the thing, guys. The AL East isn't the only stacked division in baseball. The NL East also boasts a wealth of talent and potential postseason contenders. The Atlanta Braves have been one of the biggest surprises in baseball. The Baby Braves are leading the NL East by just a half game over the Washington Nationals, but rank second in the major leagues with a .266 batting average. Dan, this is your team. Will the Atlanta Braves win the NL East?
They will not win the NL East, and I don't think that they're pretenders. I don't want to make people feel like I'm just abandoning my Braves, but as far as contenders in the NL East this year, no. The Nationals are a half game back right now. They're about to get Daniel Murphy back in the fold. Steven Strasburg, he's been a little bit injury plagued, but he's had a great year. Max Scherzer still at the time. Max Scherzer at the top of that rotation. You got to look at the Nationals as a team that wants to win this year. They've got Bryce Harper. And the Braves starting rotation, look, it's young. They've pitched well so far, but these guys throw a lot of pitches. They throw a lot of walks, and a lot of them might be on innings pitch counts as the season goes along. So the Braves also, I don't think, are in a position to trade away their farm just yet. Now, they are having a good year, but they really want to just demolish their farm system right now to make that push. I don't think so. I think they'll ride it out, but they might be contending for a wild card spot, which even that, shaky.
You bring up that farm system. Ronald Acuna Jr. also going down on the DL, so that's another tough injury. Jordan, what are your thoughts on this?
You know, I couldn't agree with Dan more on this one. I think that they are definitely contenders or competitors, but it's probably going to be more for a wild card spot than the NL East spot because the Nationals have been streaking over the past couple of weeks. It's incredible to see just the quality baseball that they've been putting on the diamond day after day. And like you said, Daniel Murphy's going to come back very soon. He's been a missing piece in their lineup, so look for the Nationals to continue to stay hot after the past couple of weeks. But, man, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, is there a more exciting time right now to be doing the chop in the outfield stands with Acuna, with Freeman, Markakis? So fun to watch.
Good team.
Certainly will be fun to watch. And guys, thank you so much for joining me. Daniel Comer and Jordan Klein here with us on Medill Sports Talk. Coming up on MST, Nick Mantis and Alexa Adler break down the Caps and the Golden Knights in the Stanley Cup Finals. Don't go anywhere. This is Medill Sports Talk.
Right through that with our colors flying we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless. At Northwestern.
Welcome back to Medill Sports Talk. I'm Darren Zaslow, joined by our hockey analysts this time, Alexa Adler and Nick Mantis. From the diamond to the ice we go. And if you go back to Game 1 of the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, what a game it was. We saw an incredible pregame atmosphere put on by Vegas. Vegas ends up winning Game 1 by a final score of 6-4, a very potent offense. Alexa, how do you slow down the Golden Knights offense?
Well, what a game, first and foremost. I mean, this is hockey. This is playoff hockey. This is what everybody wants to see, the best versus the best. Well, the Golden Knights are going to be hard to slow down, but if the Caps are going to win this series, they're going to need to pay attention to how Nate Schmidt, their former teammate, plays. He has been really a rising star for Vegas. He and his teammate, Braden McNabb, are really what's made Vegas so strong and potent defensively. This is sort of ironic in a way because the Caps GM, Caps former GM, I should say, George McPhee actually scouted Schmidt and chose him and then didn't really get to see him through. So when he decided to put together his roster for Vegas, he knew he was coming back to Nate Schmidt. And it's also kind of intense because the Vegas GM, McPhee, was also the former roommate, not roommate, but former childhood friend and former college hockey player with Caps GM Brian McClellan.
Yeah, certainly. Nick, you're a hockey guy. You know, it's hard to score 6 goals, you know, and then come back the next day defensively.
Sure.
So if you're the Capitals, how do you slow down this very potent Vegas offense?
Well, I think you got to get in their face a little bit. You know, you got to get aggressive, and it starts in the neutral zone. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the Caps need to focus on when it comes into Game 2. You're going to take guys like Orlov and Niskanen, take them out of the picture. Go with your forwards, the guys who really are going to be able to get into that neutral zone and stop some of that pressure that Vegas likes to put on you when it comes to those transitional type of plays. Now, what I want to see is I want to see guys for the Caps get aggressive. There is going to be a retaliation for Tom Wilson's hit on Marchessault. We all were talking about it. It was a late hit. Let's just, you know, get that out of the way and just talk about that already. It was a late hit. The NHL said that they're not going to do anything about it because of it being so close to that 0.68 after the pass ratio that they like to kind of categorize as a late hit when it comes to the NHL rules. So, but there is going to be a retaliation. You know, the Golden Knights are going to get back at the Capitals. So how are the Capitals going to retaliate and get aggressive? I think that's what they need to do.
Certainly adds a little more hype to this series, puts a little more on the line. Absolutely. Now, a large reason why both of these teams are in the finals is because of their play in goal. Washington's Braden Holtby and Vegas's Marc-Andre Fleury, the former Pittsburgh Penguin, have been some of the best league's goaltenders. Nick, tough question here. With the game on the line, who do you want in goal, Fleury or Holtby?
Well, I think you've got to go with Fleury. I mean, the guy has been standing on his head this entire series. He's been doing things that no other goalie in the NHL is doing, or other goalies in NHL Stanley Cup playoffs are doing ever. He right now has a saves percentage of 94%. The best ever to do it was in 1996 with 97%. Oh, let me check real quick. Who was that? Oh yeah, a guy by the name of Patrick Roy for the Colorado Avalanche. Incredible series that he had there. Fleury is on the way to be at that level. He played on the Penguins last year and for years past, where he's seen these Washington Capitals every single year in these conference playoffs. So now he's a Stanley Cup playoffs, got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, playing for a Vegas, you know, city that they really want to win this, and they really want to do it for all the survivors of that terrible Vegas massacre that happened this past summer. Everybody knows that Fleury is that guy that's going to be there and shut down the door for everyone this entire series. So that's my guy.
Here's a hot take. What if the Penguins weren't the Caps' curse? What if it was flower power, Marc-Andre Fleury all along? Terrifying to think about. We're going to have to wait to see how this plays out.
He's definitely a good guy to have, though, in goal with this type of team. He has the experience. That's one thing maybe some people look over for sure.
Absolutely.
But there are other players on the ice in this series, absolutely. And though Alexander Ovechkin is the most highly talented player in the series, other players are going to have to step up as well. Washington has received an impressive postseason performance from Evgeny Kuznetsov, who leads the team with 25 points. Then on the flip side with Vegas, they're being led in points by Jonathan Marchessault. Alexa, which player in this series needs to have the best performance for their team to win?
Well, Darren, you touched on it a little bit, mentioning the Great Eight and Kuznetsov. The Great Eight, Alex Ovechkin, if he wants to be in the Hall of Fame, if he wants to get a Stanley Cup, he needs to step up. He needs to play with that fire and that intensity that we've seen in the first two series of this game. I thought he started out the Vegas series a little bit slow and without much fire under his belly, so he needs to step it up. Evgeny Kuznetsov needs to keep bringing it. He has scored 11 games in a row, and if he continues to 2 more and the Caps win the series, then he may win the Conn Smythe Trophy, which would be huge. More people who need to step it up. Devontae Smith-Pelly. A big problem in Game 1 is the fourth line. Devontae Smith-Pelly needs to be a leader, make sure his clears go wide and are not in the shooting zone, and he needs to keep his team strong. And then last but not least, TJ Oshie, keep playing your heart out. You're an American hero. The Capitals love you. And then I guess I already said last but not least, but Braden Holtby, play the game, play the series of your life, and the Capitals will do the unthinkable and beat the Golden Knights.
Ovechkin with that $124 million contract. A lot of people may not know that as well.
Yeah.
Nick, who needs to step up?
You know, I was definitely going to say, you know, Alexander Ovechkin. You know, I think he's that leader of this Capitals team. He is that guy who needs to get more aggressive. He's always played like that. You are a NHL player with your veteran years out of Russia. Your Russian teammates always know you play with an aggressive style and a 90-mile-an-hour slap shot off of the top corner. You know that this is what you do. So get aggressive in the neutral zone, get those rebounds, get that slap shot going, and take this series by the horns and really turn it around, not just for the Capitals, but I'd say all of the NHL to see Ovi finally get one.
Well, if there's a guy to do it, Ovechkin
he
is certainly the guy.
This is all that's missing from his Hall of Fame career. He deserves this. But also, the Capitals really need to be careful with the ice, because if they can't figure out how to play with this melted ice, then they're not going to be able to win the series. They need to, I mean, the ice bounces differently on this bad ice. And I mean, Vegas, come on.
Golden Knights were playing on the same ice,
but
too.
they're used to it. It's their home team advantage.
That's fine.
So that's the thing.
That's fine.
But it's BS, in my opinion, to get a little bit crazy with the hot take here. I don't think Vegas should be spending so much money on these ridiculous pyrotechnics before the show with the shooting fire and the ice. This isn't Cirque du Soleil here, people. This is playoff hockey, okay? The Capitals and the Vegas Knights deserve a fair chance on decent ice. Not to mention, it's 100 degrees in the desert at the time of puck drop.
I think if you're starting to blaming on the ice as the problem for why you lost game one,
had to stop the game twice.
Then you shouldn't be playing in the Stanley
No.
Cup Finals.
It's not fair.
If
There's
you're going to blame the ice,
there's a level. There's a certain
then why
level
are you even
of
playing in
play.
the final?
There's a certain then why don't we throw them on a pond somewhere?
Let's do it.
And see,
Let's do it.
All right,
man versus man on a pond out in the middle. Let's put them right out here on the window, out in the Lake Michigan, and let's see what they got.
If there's one thing we can agree on, Cirque du Soleil and the series are both two very entertaining entities. I think we can agree on that.
Absolutely.
But I will say for this next point, let's keep things here in Las Vegas, not go away too far. A groundbreaking development was made 2 weeks ago about sports gambling, allowing all states to determine individually if they want to legalize it. This is big. Nevada is currently the only state to legalize sports betting. Nick, are you in favor or against this?
I actually am against it. You know, personally, being a former athlete, I have always thought that gambling has had its ways to try and corrupt the sports that we love so much. And I think that you know, the players and not just players, but officials of different sports organizations are going to make rules. Legislatures are going to make rules in order to make money, and that's what this is all about. I personally am not a favor of it, just because of the fact that I think it can get in the way. And if there's scandals that are going to happen when it comes to the sporting world, I think this is a perfect example of lining up exactly how scandals can happen and how scandals are going to happen when it comes to betting and illegally fixing games for the sports that we love.
It is controversial. Alexa, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm kind of along the same lines of Nick. I think it's sort of a dangerous road to go down, but I guess we can really only wait and see how this plays out.
Also may have been a long time coming. I feel like a lot of people in the sports business may have seen the industry going this way, but again, at the end of the day, it is up to the states. So we'll just have to figure out what states want to legalize sports betting. Yeah. But Nick, Alexa, first of all, thanks so much for joining us here on the show. Coming up, we round out the final 10 minutes of MST with Hogan Davis, Richard Foster Shelton, and the NBA Finals. Don't go anywhere. This is Medill Sports Talk.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play, what you wear, how you dance, or even what direction life takes you. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Cook foods to the right temperature using a food thermometer. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Really?
what's up, man? You left some leaves burning out here.
Yeah, I just came in just for a second.
Come on, man. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. You could torch the whole neighborhood.
It's a good point there, Smokey.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back to Medill Sports Talk. Now we're going to talk and wrap up the show about the NBA Finals. I'm Darren Zaslow, joined by our NBA analysts Hogan Davis and Richard Foster Shelton. And guys, what a first game of the series that we are waiting for to happen tomorrow. Should be very exciting. Of course, LeBron James gets the Cavaliers into the NBA Finals with a team that's been very different from previous years, doesn't have that type of depth that they've had. They part ways with Dwayne Wade, Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder as well. Hogan, is this LeBron's best accomplishment in his career, getting this Cavaliers team to the NBA Finals?
It's a great accomplishment, but this is LeBron James we're talking about. This isn't his greatest accomplishment. This is a guy who's been to 8 straight finals. That's the most amazing stat. And he's had an even worse team that he took to the finals back when he was 22 years old in 2007. But his greatest accomplishment to me was beating the 73-9 Warriors team in 2016. They had no business beating that team, one of the greatest regular season and playoff teams up to that point in NBA history. So no, I think that it was a great series. Beating the Celtics in Game 7 was LeBron at his best, but for this guy, there is no greater accomplishment than beating the Warriors.
We'll see if they can do it. Rich, what do you think? LeBron's best accomplishment?
Well, for me, I would take it to a little bit outside of basketball. LeBron, he was anointed as the chosen one at the tender age of 16, 17 years old. You've seen so many sports figures fall underneath that pressure and not make anything out of his career. LeBron has taken his career not only to be one of the greatest, but possibly the greatest player of all time. Okay, he has had no scandals. He's been a family man off the court, a model of class, and I just think that I couldn't be prouder of the guy.
Certainly will be exciting to watch him, but here's the thing, LeBron James, he's going to need some help to defeat this very talented Golden State team once again. After LeBron James averaging 34 points per game this postseason, a huge drop-off. Kevin Love ranks second on the team with 13.9. Richard, who else on the Cavs needs to step up for the Cleveland to win the finals?
I think that the most important player on this Cavaliers team besides LeBron James is J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith is LeBron's shooter, okay? LeBron needs somebody to spread out the floor because otherwise he's not going to be able to get in the paint and dish out. So J.R. has to knock down some of those open shots that we've seen that he's done in the past, but this postseason he's been on a little bit of a cold streak. So keep an eye on J.R. Smith.
George Hill and Kyle Korver, also people who've kind of made a name for themselves, averaging about 9 points per game this postseason. Hogan, who else do you think?
This has been such a crazy playoffs for the Cavs. They had all the turmoil turning over their team at the trade deadline, and we thought that this younger, more athletic team was going to put it together, and that hasn't happened. Rodney Hood is barely playing, getting DNPs all the time, and he was supposed to be rotation heavy. And like you said, Korver and George Hill really haven't been themselves. I think that Rich is right. J.R. Smith is going to have to be huge because he can get his own shot. He can make contested shots. I think Korver is going to hit the open threes. I think that's a given. But you need some of those guys that can create their own shot. Jeff Green in Game 7 against the Celtics came up big with 19 points and was really influential on pushing that lead, keeping them ahead of the Celtics. So I think it's going to be a collection of those guys that really need to bring it together.
And what a great story that was with Jeff Green coming back from heart surgery and then playing the way that he did. Certainly impressive. But another team that's impressive, the other side, the Golden State Warriors are viewed as heavy favorites to win this series, especially getting back a healthy Steph Curry. With Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, Golden State is currently 11.5-point favorites to win Game 1 of the finals tomorrow. Hogan, on this side, what do the Warriors Warriors have to do to win this series?
This is pretty simple. The Warriors have to be the Warriors. I mean, this is one of the best teams ever assembled. They've got 4 All-Stars. This is their 4th straight finals for a reason, going for their 3rd championship in 4 years. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant are going to make plays, and Klay Thompson is going to knock down shots, and Draymond Green is going to do a little bit of everything. He just has to stay in the game, play with passion, but not get himself kicked out in Game 5.
You got your Warriors colors on there too with that suit and tie.
Blue and gold, man.
I like that. Rich, what do the Warriors have to do?
Well, many people will say that the Warriors simply have to show up. As Hogan said, the Warriors have 4 All-Stars, one of the greatest offenses in NBA history. But on that offense, they have to take care of the basketball. The Warriors, one of their weaknesses has been turnovers for the past 3 or 4 years, ever since Steve Kerr has taken out. They run a very creative offense, and sometimes Steph and Klay and Draymond, they get a little too cute with the ball. I think they need to take care of the basketball because LeBron's not going to lay down. Okay, he's going to show up ready to play, and he wants this win. Okay, let's be clear. He hears the talk. He hears everybody say that he can't do it without Kyrie, can't do it without D-Wade. He wants to show that he's the best player that the game has ever seen.
Against the Rockets, they did a good job as well, getting Klay Thompson also involved on the perimeter. Of course, he's a great shooter, but he had some open shots, definitely made his presence known. Yeah. But perhaps one of the most interesting NBA stories surrounds one of the team's most surprising affiliates out in Philadelphia, the 76ers. And team president Brian Colangelo is being investigated for creating anonymous Twitter accounts to support his own work and to insult some of the team's players, such as Joel Embiid and Markelle Fultz. Richard, what do you make of these crazy allegations?
Well, it doesn't look good, Darren. I'll say that.
That's
an
understatement.
Yeah. I actually read the story that was posted on The Ringer that kind of blew the whistle on this whole thing. Colangelo has allegedly 5 accounts that he's used to defend himself as a GM. Now, he admitted that he owns one of the accounts, so it would be easy to tie him to the other 4 accounts, clearly. Him talking about his star player in Joel Embiid, that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't see how Philadelphia can expect for free agents to come and want to join a franchise that their main decision maker is taking to social media like a child. I honestly think that LeBron, he's not coming there anymore. It's over with for that.
This was originally investigated by The Ringer. That's where this whole thing came out. Hogan, what do you make of these?
I think it's the best NBA story in years, maybe the best since the Chris Paul vetoed trade, maybe when DeAndre Jordan got kidnapped by his team so that he wouldn't sign with the Mavericks. This is amazing. It was better than Christmas because it was such an unexpected present. And NBA Twitter just went nuts. The allegations are, and it's so funny that a team executive, I mean, he's been executive of the year twice in the NBA, and he's running fake burner accounts, allegedly running all of these burner accounts. There's so much to this story, but I absolutely love it, and I think Rich is right. This definitely takes LeBron out of the mix. He's not going to associate with a franchise in that kind of turmoil. Right. And the really damaging thing here was that he was releasing internal team info, including trying to get reporters to look into failed physicals by Jahlil Okafor. I mean, if he's releasing medical information of his players, he can't come back from that.
At the end of the day, all we can do, guys, is trust the process. Yes, we've said it. And unfortunately, we've run out of time here on Medill Sports Talk. Richard, Hogan, thanks so much for joining us. And a huge thank you to the rest of our crew today and to you, the viewer. Thanks so much for tuning in to the first live episode of Medill Sports Talk. We'll see you next time.